In the Trenches with Ryan Roxie.
It's been a few years since we've been able to talk, and we've never been able to, really the last couple of years, it's always been either passing very quickly at an Alice Cooper show.
Yeah.
At one point. So we never had a good time to hang and talk about the musical paths that both of us have taken. And it wasn't up until the time I was saying the intro about we've lived a lot of coincidental similarities where we met in New York. We can start right there. Actually, we start going back to get forward. What do you say? That's our gratuitous motorcycle sample that we have.
I think that's great. Let's go back to go forward.
Well, out of the gate, we met in New York way back in the 1900s. Something like that.
Yeah.
And we met, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, we met over at Sony Music Publishing because we were both signed with Sony Music Publishing. Is that sort of what happened?
I don't think so. I remember meeting you at a very sort of really grotty rehearsal studio somewhere on the Lower East Side or maybe Midtown. I think that you came to maybe because I was looking for a guitar player. And I think you came we wanted to just see what would happen if we played together. I think that's where we met. I think so.
That's where well, what eventually happened, I remember at those Sony publishing studios, is I eventually ended up playing on some of those demos.
Yeah,
right?
you did. Yeah.
And you had a ton of songs. Do you still have any of those demos out, like somewhere in a DAT tape or in a cassette? They always came on cassette tapes back in those days, right?
Yeah. I will have to look. I will look in my attic and I'll find out. And if I do, I'll try and figure out how I can transpose them into, a format that we can listen to now.
Yeah,
I'll put it in digital.
What you'll do is you'll put out your solo album, and then all the sort of extra material you can put on a whole nother bonus box set, and maybe you can slap some of those Ryan
good
Roxie
idea
guitar demos on there. Oh, well, hey, it's not like it hasn't been done before. It's called the Roxie box. And I think I have one right here. So I can promo.
Let's do that.
We met in New York, and then we eventually came to Los Angeles, maybe at separate times. Did you come after I got the hell out of New York, or
Yeah, it was sort of like feeling like we needed to leave New York, right? At that point. It's sort of like there was something going on with the vibe in New York. It was getting too competitive and everybody was getting too almost provincial. It was all like about New York. And I was like, yeah, I want to kind of be a little bit more about my, the rest of the world as well. So, yeah, I think we probably did. I moved to LA after the first New York Loose tour of England, which was, I'd say 1995 or something like that.
1995, 96, right around that.
Yeah, exactly. So we did a huge kind of lots of tours in Europe and mostly in England. And then we ended up in LA. Yeah.
Does that ever bum you out a little bit that New York had all the ingredients to have a great musical sort of genre or vibe and atmosphere, kind of like the same way that Seattle had theirs at that time, as well as Los Angeles had theirs a couple of years earlier? It seemed like it had all the ingredients for this.
It did.
What now? And you were saying that perhaps it was just the competition that we felt in New York, and that sort of like kill or be killed attitude, or what was it?
So I just did a podcast, and it's called Straight to Video podcast.
Okay. Oh, we love Straight to Video.
Yeah, right.
Rob is
yeah,
great.
Exactly. And I thoroughly went into that whole thing, which was really interesting because I had a couple of sort of comments from people that were around then. They were like, "Right on, Brijitte, for actually calling it as it was." So yeah, it was cutthroat. I mean, no one wanted to help each other. everyone wanted to stomp on each other. My favorite story around that time was when Madonna came to see New York Loose at Coney Island High, and she was thinking about signing us. And so I knew she was coming. So, we got an opening band, and we played at Coney Island High. And the opening band, who I won't even mention their name, decided that they were going to go on like 40 minutes late so that Madonna could see them instead of us. It was like stuff like that happened all the time. And you're thinking, really? Anyway, I remember walking up the stairs from the dressing room and going, I've got to apologize to her. I've got to just make sure she stays to see us. Or, hey, who doesn't want to meet Madonna? I mean, so anyway, so I walked up the stairs and I found her, and she was like the tiniest little thing. She's so small. I mean, her hand was like a little child's hand. And I reached out and I was like,
I thought you
please.
could fit her in your hand.
It was so, but she was lovely. Her whole kind of, I'm not a fan of her music. I'm just going to say that now, but her whole kind of vibe was so New York tough girl. She really was. And I just said, hey, I'm really sorry these guys, are running late. We just, if you could stay for us, that'd be good. And she just went, these guys suck. I was like, yeah. So yeah. But yeah, that was like the kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. It's like there was no support. It was all cutthroat, right? Do I sound angry? I don't mean to sound angry. I'm over it.
You don't sound angry at all. You sound like the real deal. And here's the thing. This is how my feeling of one hand washing the other, both hands washing the feet, and supporting each other, whatever we do, will always lead to the greater good.
Absolutely.
If you want to hear, the long version of that story, of course, you're going to go check out Rob Lane's Straight to Video, because
I talk
Rob
a lot
Lane.
About that. I talk about that. Yeah.
And I was going to bring up this Madonna connection a little bit later in the show in a section that we call "Never Let the Truth Get in the Way." Never let the truth get in the way of a good story. But that's okay, because we got it out of the way, and we have just found out that the Madonna connection is not fiction. It's fact, Vic.
It's fact.
Madonna, yeah, there you go. And he's trying
the
to look
Madonna.
the overlay.
The Madonna came to the show.
The Madonna.
The Madonna.
Well, we're hanging out with the Brijitte West, and the club was called Coney Island.
I'm Ryan Roxie, and I've taken all my years of experience of playing guitar, and I want to pass the torch of rock and roll on to you. Check out the System 12 Guitar Method.